This is Nick.
This is Jack.
It's Wednesday, Ceviche Wednesday, March 19th, and today's pod is the best one yet. This is a T-Boy.
The top 3 stories at the intersection of business and pop culture.
Jack, I'd love to share a couple things with you. Is that all right?
Mm-hmm.
Your Audi likes to whip up the takeaways. Your Audi thinks that interest rates should go up.
My Audi?
Okay, please, no more questions. Your Audi owns shares of Peloton.
Where are you going with this?
The session is concluded. Jack, 3 stories. What do we got on the pod?
Okay, I have no idea. That must be some
I
meme
said the
that
session's
went way over
concluded.
my
I
head.
said the session's concluded. 3 stories for today's show. What do we got on the pod, Jack?
For our first story, Duke is the favorite in the men's NCAA basketball tournament, and it's #1 most popular in our brackets too.
But we think you shouldn't pick Duke, and it holds a lesson on smart investing.
For our second story, it's Google. Google just announced its biggest acquisition ever. It's buying Wiz for $33 billion.
And as part of the deal, every Wiz employee is getting $588,000.
And our third and final story, Chevy, Mickey D's, Bloomies. They're some of the most famous brand nicknames of all time.
But a wild new study shows what happens when brands start using those nicknames in the first person.
Spoiler, don't do it.
It's the curse of the corporate nickname.
But Yetis, before we hit that wonderful mix of stories.
Fantastic mix of stories for an innie.
Okay.
I said just keep going, Jack. Just work with it.
Okay, Nick, the least techie thing that we human beings do is being taken over by tech.
Waiting online.
Get this, Yetis, line waiting apps are surging right now.
Paying people to wait in a physical line on your behalf is at an all-time high.
The restaurant in Brooklyn that doesn't do reservations,
You can hire a dude to wait online.
those Broadway musical tickets that are first come, first served,
You can hire a lady to wait online.
the sneaker shop that's doing a limited edition drop at 5 a.m. this Tuesday.
Someone will wait online for you.
Here's the data. TaskRabbit says that line waiting requests are up 18% nationwide in the last year.
And the Wall Street Journal found an entire company dedicated to waiting online.
It's called Same Old Line Dudes. They'll wait in line for any New Yorker.
Because we millennials are time poor. And if time is money, then ipso facto, a line is your financial enemy.
But if time is money, then paying someone to wait in line isn't cheap, is it?
No, it's not, Jack. TaskRabbit charges $27 an hour for someone to wait online.
Plus, there's a 20% weather fee. If it rains, you got to pay more.
And of course, there's the fundamental problem with any line waiting economy.
If you hire someone to wait online for you, then aren't lines just going to get even longer?
So, Jack, where do we draw the line on waiting in line?
And does hiring a line waiter cross said line?
And should we take this discussion offline? Yetis, let us know what you think of the line waiting economy in the comments. We want to get your thoughts.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't eager to hear your thoughts.
I think you took it too far on that one, Jack, but we'll blame your Audi for it. Let's hit our 3 stories.
15 years before this song, 2 boys from the Northeast met in a dorm. They had an idea that caused a cultural storm. It's the best one yet, but the best is the norm. Jack, Nick, that's it. I don't even think they need to practice. 50%, that's a fat tip. T-Boy City on your at-list. If you know, you know, cause we ready to go. We can't wait no more, so just start the show. Start the show.
For our first story, the best way to win your March Madness bracket, don't pick Duke.
We'll tell you why not picking Duke is actually the same advice as our favorite investing advice.
Full disclosure, we did not go to UNC. But Yetis, quick update for your calendars. The deadline to fill out your bracket is tomorrow morning.
The men's games begin Thursday at noon Eastern Time.
68% of Americans will fill out a March Madness bracket, even though 100% of Americans have an opinion on said brackets.
Who's in your Final Four?
Will NC State upset Texas Tech?
Can a number 12 seed finally lose to the number 5 seed like they're supposed to?
No one knows the answers. So Frank from Finance organized an office pool. Your buddy Timmy sent you a reminder. Even Warren Buffett filled out a March Madness bracket this year.
And with 68 teams playing, there's actually 9.2 quintillion different ways to fill out your March Madness bracket.
But there is one pick that is the most popular out of all those 9.2 quintillion ways?
It's Duke.
Duke.
Statistically speaking, the Duke Blue Devils are most likely to win this year's tournament.
There's actually a 22.9% chance that Duke gets the national title, according to the stats guru Ken Pomeroy.
But America thinks Duke is even more likely than that to win it all.
Apparently, 28% of brackets on Yahoo already have Duke winning it all.
Now, everyone knows a kid who's from a Duke family. Their car is blue, their house is blue, their ego's inflated, they have a little bit of a southern twang accent.
And they're already celebrating the win they don't have yet.
But Nick, let's dive even deeper into these March Madness numbers.
Yeah, Jack, because I believe we said earlier that picking Duke is mathematically the least efficient move you can make, besties.
Let's look at the statistics. First of all, Duke had an epic year. They went 31-3. They beat fellow number 1 seed Auburn earlier in the regular season.
Duke's basically winning on the SAT scores and they're winning on the scoreboards.
And their freshman, Cooper Flagg, known as the main menace, he's leading the Blue Devils in every statistical category.
Yetis Duke is simply considered the strongest men's basketball team in 25 years.
Sorry, Coach K, but it's true.
But Jack, let's talk about the numbers here. In the last decade, the top-ranked team overall has only won the championship twice.
UConn in 2024 and UVA in 2019.
In fact, Jack and I went even deeper. Since 1985, the statistically number 1 pick in all of March Madness won the tournament only 6 times.
That's right. Just 17% of the time does the number 1 favorite actually win it all.
So Jack, are the Duke Blue Devils going to make it all the way to the Elite Eight? Probably.
But will they win it all? Probably not.
But besties, that's not the reason we think you shouldn't pick Duke to win it all.
The reason you shouldn't pick Duke is because everyone is picking Duke.
And in both March Madness and in stock investing, if everyone's doing it, you probably shouldn't do it. So Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over in March Madness?
Don't join the crowd. Run away from it.
Yetis, there's a concept in tech and business called wisdom of the crowds. Basically, large groups lead to more accurate decisions.
If you're not sure what to do, let 1,000 people go before you. That crowd will show you what's the right thing to do.
But in investing, we believe running away from the crowd makes the most sense. Like avoid what the majority does.
Because in investing, if a stock is popular, that means it has a high price. Everyone is bidding up the same stock. If you follow the crowd, you're going to buy a stock that's really expensive.
All right, it's better to buy the stock the crowd is not focused on. The value stock, the one that's worth more than what people think.
In March Madness, if you pick the popular team to win it all, even if you're right, you'll have to share the pot with the rest of the people that also picked.
In fact, Duke's 28% popularity versus 22% chance of winning show that Duke is overvalued by the whole market.
Just like some believe Nvidia is overvalued by the whole market.
So besties, add it up, and your best chance of profit, it's investing in undervalued assets, stocks or teams.
That's why whether you're picking brackets or picking portfolios, don't go with the crowd. Go away from the crowd.
For our second story, Google just announced its biggest acquisition ever. Google is buying cybersecurity whiz for $33 billion.
But the wildest part, every employee is getting a check for almost $600,000 as part of this deal.
We'll explain. But first, Jack, how about we sprinkle on some chronological context, please?
20 years ago, the 4 co-founders of Wiz met as teenagers while serving in the Israeli army.
In 2012, they founded a tech company, and they then sold it to Microsoft 3 years later for $300 million.
Celebrate the wins on an epic sale.
Then in 2020, those same 4 guys co-founded another company, which does the same thing.
It does pretty much the same thing.
And those 4 guys just sold that second company, Wiz, to Google for $33 billion.
Celebrate even more epic wins, apparently.
Our prediction, these same guys are going to launch the same company a third time, probably sell it to Amazon for $100 million.
Yeah, Wiz does cybersecurity for the cloud. They're basically going to take all your company's data that you have saved on the cloud and assess it for vulnerabilities.
Like the way you move stuff into the cloud every week, hackers could intercept that. Their software stops that.
That's the kind of thing that Wiz will tell you if you become one of their clients.
But we should let you know how big a deal this is, Yetis, because it is literally a big deal.
Buying Wiz for $33 billion is a bigger acquisition than Google's next 8 largest acquisitions combined.
It is literally their biggest deal ever in the history of Google.
Side note,
Yeah.
Google must love hummus
True.
because this is the 9th Israeli company Google has acquired.
Not too shabby.
But the real story here is not the billions that are going to the co-founders.
No.
It's 2 other surprise winners of this acquisition.
Yetis, there's one wild detail, Jack, and I noticed in the deal terms of the biggest deal in Google history.
$1 billion of the acquisition is being set aside for retention bonuses to keep all of Wiz employees employed at Google.
So we did a little math here. Divide the $1 billion retention bonus by Wiz's 1,700 employees. And what do you get, Jack?
It means each employee is getting a $588,000 check if they agree to keep working for Google.
Treat yourself. Jack, I heard the interns over at Wiz bought yachts.
I doubt that, but maybe that's because I'm an innie.
It'll all be clear with Cold Harbor. But Yetis, this is not just a win for the random employees at Wiz. It's also a win for New York City.
Because although Wiz has Israeli roots, it calls New York City its headquarters and its home now.
And this happens to be the biggest exit for a New York City-based tech company since AOL Time Warner.
Plus, it's a big win for the VCs that invested in Wiz.
Yeah, it's a big win for those venture capitalists because the price was a surprise.
Just 1 year ago, we actually covered it on this pod. Google tried to acquire Wiz then for $23 billion. So investors waited 1 year and got a 50% higher exit because they waited.
Basically, every month the investors waited for Wiz to sell, the company gained $1 billion in more value.
Exactly.
But Yetis, the one big question we still have about this deal, we haven't shared with you yet.
Will it actually happen?
Yeah, kind of a big question. So Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at The Wiz?
The biggest tech deal of the year is a test for the next 4 years.
Yetis, last year, Wiz walked away from that offer from Google because they thought regulators would probably block it.
After all, Google has already been sued for antitrust. Regulators think it's too big, and now they're trying to get even bigger.
But with the Trump administration, both sides now must think that regulators won't block the deal.
So, in the next year, we'll see if Trump's historic dislike of big tech blocks the deal.
Or if Trump's embrace of free market capitalism lets the deal go through.
And don't be surprised if Google's Sundar Pichai donates another $1 million to Trump's whatever fund to increase his chances.
Because Google is already being sued for antitrust, and now it's trying to get even bigger.
So whether this deal gets approved or not is a test for how the next 4 years of M&A will go.
The biggest tech deal of the year is a test for the next 4 years. Hey Yetis, if you're a bestie, take a sec and hit that subscribe button.
And like this video while you're at it. If you leave a comment, by the way, we'll read it.
For our third and final story, a fascinating new study shows that when a company starts adopting the nickname that you gave it, the business suffers.
It's the curse of the corporate nickname, and we'll tell you how to avoid that curse.
But first, McDonald's is Mickey D's. BMW, they've got Beamer. Natural Light beer, it's really Natty Light.
I always called the Olive Garden the OG Lounge.
And for some reason, that just works for you. I love it.
Nicknames, they're not just for humans. We give them to companies too.
Pick me up in your V-dub. We'll hit up Starves and we'll go right by the Target afterwards.
Now, nicknames should be authentic and natural.
Yes, 80% of us believe that a brand nickname actually originates organically from the customers themselves.
Because nobody likes a self-proclaimed nickname.
Remember sophomore year when you asked us to call you Jack-o'-lantern? Jack?
No,
Remember that?
I have never done that.
Okay. You're going to back me up on this. Yetis, there was like 3 months in the fall. Jack was like, call me Jack-o'-lantern.
No, I'm afraid this is one of those ones where if I deny it, people will think it's more true.
I'm not going to not deny it, Jack. It may just be a story for another pod.
Well, here's an update, Yetis. Nobody likes when the person starts referring to themselves as their nickname either, especially when brands do it.
Get this. If a CEO uses the company's nickname publicly, the stock will fall.
That's the conclusion from a wild new study from Ontario's Western University.
Jack, let's talk a couple examples here. First, we got Bloomingdale's, which is affectionately called Bloomies, and Nordstrom, which is affectionately called Nordies by their biggest fans.
Well, in 2021, Bloomingdale's opened a concept store called Bloomies, And in 2018, Nordstrom launched a club called Nordies.
And Jack, what happened after both those announcements?
After the companies used their own nicknames themselves, their stocks fell by 4% and 5% in the following week.
Jack, I'm thinking back to business school, and I believe the technical term for that is ick. Financial ick.
Next, Western University did an experiment. Instead of looking at the stock market, they measured social media engagement.
In this case, we'll look at the examples Chevrolet, which has Chevy, and Target, which has Target.
When Chevrolet official tweets included their nickname, Chevy, those tweets had 1/3 as many likes.
And when Target ads used the word Target, those Target ads got 1/3 as many clicks.
Here's a third example that's wildest of all. It's even true in luxury.
Jack, let's look at Louboutin, the maker of $1,000 high heel pumps that you wear out for a fun night out.
In an experiment, Western University changed the website so that half of customers saw the nickname Luby and the other half saw the official name, Louboutin.
The result? They sold 1/3 fewer shoes when they used the nickname Luby, not Louboutin.
As Gen Z would say, it's giving cringe when you use your own nickname.
And I'm looking at it now, Jack. Kind of reminds me of that Steve Buscemi meme.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Try to not be that guy.
Well done, Jack-o'-lantern. Well done. So, Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over in branding?
Appreciate the party. Don't crash it.
Yetis, one of the biggest challenges for any business leader, having the discipline to not do something.
And one of the biggest mistakes is when you cave and don't be disciplined on that.
Yeah, when you ignore the discipline. If your customers are having fun with some element of your brand, let them have fun with it. They can run with it.
Because the data now shows as soon as you get involved with that fun, the fun loses its authenticity.
Yeah, it's like kids having a party in a parent's house. Like, yeah, they're having a blast in the basement when no one's there.
But as soon as the adult shows up, the fun is over.
When brands use their own nicknames, it's the marketing equivalent of showing up like a chaperone.
We think it applies to both people and brands. If you're blessed with an endearing nickname, have the discipline to not use it yourself.
Appreciate the party. Don't crash it. Jack, could you whip up the takeaways for us for Ceviche Wednesday?
The most popular pick to win in March Madness is Duke. But don't pick Duke.
Because with March Madness, just like investing, if the crowd is going in one direction, go away from the crowd.
For our second story, Google is acquiring Wiz for $33 billion. It's a win for the co-founders, the 1,700 employees, and New York City tech.
But whether the deal actually gets approved or not is a test of the next 4 years.
And our third and final story is the curse of the corporate nickname. If fans give your company a nickname, that's great. Just don't use that nickname yourself.
Appreciate the party. Don't crash the party.
But Yetis, this pod's not over yet. Here's what else you need to know today.
First, that big Putin-Trump phone call on Ukraine happened yesterday.
Vladimir Putin agreed to stop attacking Ukrainian energy infrastructure, but he would not agree to the broader ceasefire that the U.S. helped negotiate.
It is something, it is some progress, but it's not what the White House was hoping for.
Putin is demanding much more to stop the war that he started.
And second, Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, presented his latest computer chip at the company's AI Super Bowl.
He's trying to restore investor confidence in AI and in NVIDIA's chips driving that trend.
So what did he say exactly? Well, he said that AI computing needs to grow 100-fold just to meet the crazy demand.
But NVIDIA stock is still down 20% from its all-time high.
And finally, get this, Ferrari's CEO just said that 40% of new car buyers for Ferrari are under 40 years old.
That's a huge jump from a few years ago when it was basically only retired people buying Ferraris.
Down in Belvoca Vista, but they're still staying exclusive over at Ferrari. In fact, it reminds us of this really cool quote from the founder, Enzo Ferrari.
We will always deliver one less car than the market demands.
Even if you're 38. Now, time for the best fact yet. This one sent in from Jack. You hear that? I think this is coming in from the International Space Station.
Houston?
We've got a best fact yet, baby.
The astronauts stranded in the ISS just landed back safely on planet Earth.
Their visit to space was supposed to be 1 week, ended up lasting 9 months, but now they're safe back on Earth.
The Boeing shuttle that brought them up to space wasn't safe to return, but the SpaceX shuttle brought them home safely yesterday.
But here's the fact you may not know. Up in space, you're actually taller.
This is wild. But because there's no gravity up there, the average person grows in height by 3% up in space.
If you're up in space, you are on average 2 inches taller than you would be back down here on Earth.
What does this mean? Like your spine, your vertebrae are just like further apart from each other?
I think it means, Jack, on your Tinder profile, you're supposed to say, I'm 5'10" on Earth, but I'm 6 foot up in space.
That's true. And if the other person swiping is a science nerd,
Yeah.
they'll be very turned on by that remark.
I think we just made a few happy couples, Jack. Yetis, you look fantastic over there. Jack-o'-lantern, you're looking great over there, man.
Please don't make this a thing.
Besties, if you are waiting on a line right now, leave us a comment about the line wait economy. Should we be paying people to wait online?
I've never done it. I'm actually thinking about getting paid to wait in line.
As long as we know where to draw the line, Jack.
And as long as you remember to bring a book.
Leave a comment and remember to give us 5 stars, a rating and review. That helps grow the show. And Jack and I will see you tomorrow. And before we go, a happy birthday to Yeti Allie Harrington in Smyrna, Georgia, and a happy National Athletic Training Month to all the wonderful, hard-working athletic trainers out there. Thank you, Allie.
And a shout out to the boring business owner, Kevin Erickson, who runs a blanket business, a wool blanket business called Arcturus.
And Ashley Day's also got a boring business to share. She's running a bookkeeping company and she's crushing it.
And Kyle McQuain's sisters, they got a boring business that sounds amazing. They send packages, care packages, to the military.
And a special shout out to Dylan Steinfeld, a Yeti who picked Duke in his bracket to win it all. And if you want to get a shout out on the show for yourself or anyone else, just fill out the form. We've got a link in this episode description.
And you can get your voice on the pod.
Celebrate the wins.
Nick and I will see you tomorrow.
Can't wait.
This is Jack. I own stock of Amazon.
And neither of us picked Duke in our brackets.
Don't know what this inny-outy stuff is, which is fine. I'm fine to be like the ignorant doofus occasionally.